So, thank you for taking that time to, visit our LinkedIn and other spaces and register for this webinar and for being here, right? So today, we are going to look into how TaxJar works with ERPNext. With me today, I have Subin, who is going to, demonstrate the feature. I'll tell you about myself. I am Kundendu Singh. I work for business development in the United States for Frappe, and my key goal right now is to drive localization in the target market so that we get that kind of traction because we are a late entrant in the American markets. The reason that we are doing this webinar today is because we have been getting a lot of requests from customers and prospects in the United States for TaxJar integration, and finally it's here. With me today is Subin. He works as an engineer in the accounts team and is a driving force when it comes to TaxJar integration in ERPNext. So as you guys must be aware, we are the world's #1 free and open source ERP. Been in the business for the last 10 years, in fact, more than that, serving more than 1,000 customers right now. And we are a team, lean and smart team of 100+ dedicated members who are kind of the workforce behind what you see as ERPNext. Few general guidelines, not very strict. During the course of this webinar, we'd appreciate, if you keep yourself on mute in case you have questions, you can put that in the comment box. And that's about it. We'll answer all your questions. The questions that we cannot answer today will be answered in due course of time. So please take over. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Kundendu, for this introduction, and I welcome everyone and thank you for joining this webinar. So this webinar is primarily based on TaxJar integration that we have included in the ERPNext software. So first of all, let's get a brief overview of what TaxJar itself is. I'm audible, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so TaxJar is a service that provides sales tax compliance and sales automation essentially for your company. So it helps you with filing your taxes and making sure that your company is up to date with the regulations and that it is not breaking any rules or norms or any making any violations as such. And it serves in multiple countries, and particularly in the United States, it's considered really highly because the taxation rules in the United States is quite complicated, and TaxJar has managed to do it quite well, and it has been trusted by multiple companies. So it essentially helps you in automatic tax filing depending on the state and wherever you are located. And based on the state, the location, you have various taxation rules, and it has many other features. And so for the TaxJar integration, you'll essentially need a TaxJar account. First of all, you'll have to register your company with TaxJar, and then you will be directed to a dashboard wherein you have to, wherein you will be given all the features for filing taxes for your company. So TaxJar provides an API which we integrate in our ERPNext software, with which we are automating the sales tax calculation. So firstly, you'll have to make the TaxJar account. You'll have to consult them and pick a perfect, pricing rule. And ideally, they suggest the professional pricing rule, and it has the TaxJar API integration available. So once you make an account with TaxJar, you will be directed to the TaxJar dashboard, which looks like this. And the first and the most important thing to keep in mind is we are going to use the TaxJar API key. So if you click on account and you go to TaxJar API here, so here you'll see that you have been provided with a live token. Now we have to keep this token safe, and you'll have to note this down. So this is the token with which we'll interface our ERPNext instance with the TaxJar instance. And it also provides with a sandbox API token in case you have to make dummy transactions or just test your TaxJar and ERPNext instance altogether. And besides this, if you see, there is something called Nexus states with when it comes to TaxJar. So Nexus, what is Nexus? So Nexus is essentially a place wherein you have your business setup. So in TaxJar, we have Nexus states. So if you have your business set up in multiple states, say New York, California. So New York and California both your Nexus states, and you have to add them both here. So currently, I've added the New York state as my Nexus state. So I have set up my business here. So now let's move on to ERPNext. So in ERPNext, you'll have to first of all set up the TaxJar settings. So you can search for TaxJar settings here. You can go to the TaxJar settings page. And initially, how it's going to be is something like this, and everything will be empty here. So firstly, you'll have to enable tax calculation. And after that, you'll be given two more checkboxes. So one is sandbox mode for testing purposes, and one is the create TaxJar transaction. So when you check this, you'll mandatorily need the live API key. For sandbox mode, you need the sandbox API key. So when you check this, you'll have all your sales invoice transactions created in your TaxJar account. It will be reflected under the tax transaction page in TaxJar. So firstly, you have checked both these boxes, then you have to enter the credentials. So as I said before, you have to enter the live API key we talked about earlier in this box and the configuration part. So first you have to enter the company. So say for example, if you have multiple companies, you can enter the current company that you're working with here. And based on that, the account heads would be filtered here. So the tax account head is the account under which the sales tax is going to get accumulated. And the shipping account head is the account under which the shipping taxes, shipping charges would get accumulated. And there's another table you can see here. It's the Nexus list. So this is a feature with which you can see your currently active Nexus states here. So if you click the update Nexus button, so initially you have nothing displayed here. So firstly, you'll have to click the update Nexus list here, and only then will a table pop up here, and it will have the state wherein you have your Nexus located. So once the TaxJar setting is done, you have to make sure. Since TaxJar deals with sales invoices, you are dealing with customers. So you have to make sure that your company address and the customer's address is perfect, and it's properly entered in the address master here. So uh, this is my company currently, which I'm using. So I have entered the address here, the city as San Francisco and the state as California and the country as United States and postal code. So the most important parts here would be the city, the state, very important, the state, the country, and the postal code as well. It is very important that you have to enter correct information in these fields. So I have set up my customer addresses and the TaxJar demo, and that is my company address here. Now let's move on to a sales invoice and let's try out a transaction. So I'm creating a new sales invoice here. I'll select the customer. So say Bloomingdale's, which is located in New York. And okay, so before this, another important point that I forgot. You have something called product tax category. So it's a doc type that automatically gets populated in your ERPNext instance when you set it up. So product tax category is basically multiple tax categories which are automatically created, provided to you by TaxJar itself. And based on these tax categories, TaxJar calculates taxes for items. So whenever you create an item, so say I have an item of a piece of clothing here. So you have a field called product tax category. And in here, it's a link field. So you will have all the available product tax categories over here. So make sure you enter the product tax category correctly as well for the item when you create an item. So we are creating a sales invoice now, selecting the customer first. So this customer was based in New York and we are based in San Francisco. So we are in two different Nexus states. Let's add an item, say OTC pet food and another item, just for sake of an example, a piece of clothing here. So we have it here. The pricing is set. The sales taxes and charges table. When we save here, we can see that the sales tax and charges table has been automatically populated with the sales tax amount of all the items. So here you will be displayed with an accumulated amount of all the items, sales tax of all the items. Also in the item table, child table, if you expand the row, you'll see two fields here, which is tax collectible and taxable amount. So taxable amount is the amount on the basis of which tax is collected, and the tax that is calculated is displayed in this field. So so here we have created and saved an invoice. So if you see here, so if you see the tax collectible and taxable amount field here it's displaying 0 and 0. So why so? So according to the rules of the state of New York for taxing a piece of clothing, if the amount of in the individual clothing item is less than $110, then it won't be applicable for sales tax. So since the item amount is $56 here, which is less than 110, it has no tax against it. So TaxJar handles such cases internally as well. So let's submit here. So it has been submitted. A transaction should be created on our TaxJar dashboard. So once you go to your TaxJar account, you navigate to the transactions page. And if you see here, the topmost transaction, this is the transaction of the invoice which we made here. So if you see the name of the document, that is the name of the invoice, is used as the ID for the transaction which is created here. And if you open this, it will show you the item and the breakdown of tax based on the city and state. And it will compare between the expected values and the actual values which we gave. So this is essentially a simple implementation, a simple example of how TaxJar automatically calculates your taxes. And now if I cancel this sales invoice, and if I refresh this page, it will automatically delete the transaction as well if you cancel the invoice. So such basic operations are available in the TaxJar integration, which we have integrated with our ERPNext. So yep, so this is all that's there with the basic demo we have for TaxJar. So
Great. So it was short and crisp. Thank you, Subin. Do we have any questions? Do we have any comments?
So yeah, now is the time when you can ask your questions. We'll try to answer them.
Absolutely. So the first question, Subin, is what will be the difference between item tax and product tax? Where will be the difference, right?
So item tax template is something that you create on your own and it gets automatically fetched when you create an invoice, right? But in case of TaxJar, you don't have to set an item tax template. You have to make sure that there is no default item tax template set. Otherwise, it will get fetched. And uh, the rest of the calculation, the tax calculation, everything is done by TaxJar, and it's returned and populated in the table. So we don't have any tax template as such set up for TaxJar. It's completely done by TaxJar on its end, passed on to us, and we display it in the taxes table. And we must not have a default item tax template set.
This question was from Wolfram.
Yes.
Follow up.
So yes, we just need to make sure that the invoice doesn't automatically fetch or populate the taxes table. So ideally, there should be no default one set.
Okay, so there's another question by Bhavesh. How to set up TaxJar for multi-company setup, as there is single company field in setting page.
Okay, so yeah, right now there is the configuration only for one company, right? So currently that can be a drawback, but yeah, we can configure it for one company. Down the line, maybe we can still. This is still an in progress integration. So yeah, down the line we can definitely configure it for multiple companies.
Okay, Subin.
Guys, feel free to unmute yourself and ask your questions.
Subin, I just had one question. Can I ask? Yeah. So the overall design is like you pass the items and the TaxJar calculates the taxes for each of the item, and you store it into each of the item, as well as you store the total in the taxes and charges table, correct?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Any more questions? So we have consistently been building for the US, and TaxJar is certainly a great step into that direction. More would come, and more exciting features are on the roadmap, for the US market and elsewhere as well. Okay, we have a question from Ashish on TaxJar side. So there will never be different expected and actual tax. Difference between expected.
No, there shouldn't be any difference. So that will only indicate that the values that we are sending to TaxJar is correct through our invoice.
What is the role of shipping charges over here?
So it will also calculate shipping charges for you if you configure it.
Maybe I can Subin take
this
one.
Sure.
So some of the shipping charges are also taxable. So if if you have configured a template where you are applying any shipping charges, right? So the API picks up the shipping charge that you're applying, and it also considers the taxes that has to be applied on the shipping charge itself.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Dipesh, for that one.
There are some states they calculate the tax based on the weight, and some states calculate the weight, tax based on the cost. Are we handling such cases?
Weight I don't think so we are handling yet. It wasn't a mandatory field, so this is just a basic integration as of now. So mostly based on cost, not weight.
So Subin, this will evolve, right?
Yes, surely. Like it has to. It's just a basic implementation. We have just we had a talk with a dev on the TaxJar end, and they gave us a set of points that we need to cover so as to be usable, so that ERPNext can be used to calculate taxes using TaxJar in the United States. So we have covered those points, and those were the bare minimum requirements. So for such points like calculation based on weight, so all these we still need to implement. And even we are not aware about all the different kinds of ways that taxes are calculated there. And so through a webinar like this, maybe we can have reach out to community and other people, and they can even tell us more about how we can improve this. So yeah,
absolutely. We got two of those today.
yes,
So
definitely.
moving forward, this is going to be a critical piece with the ERPNext. And there are other exciting features and integrations coming up. They are on our product roadmap. And just keep watching our space on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, of course, to get more updates on this. We'll be hosting more such seminars, more such webinars, to ensure that we reach out to the community and the community is able to understand what's going on the product side. If we do not have any more questions, we'll end this webinar.
There's one question. So Bhavesh, yes, when we return a sales invoice, a return transaction will be created on the transactions page, and the amount there would be negative. So it is handled for return transactions as well.
Any more questions? Oh, that's a compliment for you, Subin.
Thank you. Yes, sure.
So great. If there are no more questions, we'll just end this webinar here. Thank you for taking the time. I'm sure it's been productive for you. In case you joined late or you want to have a rerun at the presentation, a YouTube video would be on our YouTube page, so that you can access the recording soon. So that's about it. Thank you, guys. Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.